Kyle Schwarber just exploded in 2025. 56 homers, 132 RBIs, and a second-place finish in MVP voting. But now, his free agency has taken a dramatic turn, and whilst the Philadelphia Phillies are still the frontrunners to land him, sources close to the negotiation say that they aren't close to a deal. Instead, a whole slew of teams, from the Boston Red Sox to the most unlikely of names, are jumping into the mix trying to sign him. So now, the big question is, where does Schwarber actually end up? So this genuinely blew my mind. The Reds have serious interest in Kyle Schwarber, and Schwarber is interested in a potential homecoming per Ken Rosenthal. The Cincinnati Reds, folks, I mean, they are just not a team that you think about when you think about signing the biggest free agents, right? Like, when was the last time that the Cincinnati Reds were really active in the free agency market? I genuinely can't even think of it. You know, sometimes you hear them around the trade deadline, but usually they're selling instead of buying. And if they were to go out and they were to bring somebody in like Kyle Schwarber, 56 bombs last year, pair that guy up with Elly De La Cruz, I mean, now you are cooking with gasoline. And the big reason why this might actually happen and why there is some mutual interest is because, and I wasn't aware of this, he grew up very close to Cincinnati. In fact, 35 miles north of Cincinnati in Middleton, Ohio. So Schwarber, I mean, he is quite literally a native to Cincinnati. That's where he grew up. I assume that's probably the baseball team that he was cheering for as a kid. It kind of makes sense. It starts to add up. And what an addition this would be to Cincinnati. I mean, obviously, I brought up the homers, but an OPS of 928 and still MVP 2, right? MVP 2 from a guy who is, predominantly a DH, right? So it's just off of the bat. Adding somebody like that in to the Cincinnati Reds roster, a veteran presence, been there, done that, literally won a World Series before, has done everything there is to do in the game. You bring that guy in to a relatively young Cincinnati Reds roster, pair him up with Elly De La Cruz. Like I said previously, you're cooking with gasoline. Look at this lineup. Look at where he might slot in right here, okay? You got TJ Friedl right there. You got Marte up there at 2. Then you got Elly. I'm thinking somewhere in here. I mean, maybe they could do what Philly does and lead off with Schwarber, but I'm thinking maybe bat him second and then have that type of pairing. Or potentially maybe you want to have Elly De La Cruz in front of him, and then Elly De La Cruz can swipe some bags and Schwarber can drive him in. However you want to draw this thing up, it starts to look really tantalizing. And for a Cincinnati Reds team that was right there in the postseason, I know they weren't hyper competitive and ultimately they kind of just made it in and it was immediately one and done and they got spanked by the LA Dodgers, but still they made the dance. You bring in somebody like a Kyle Schwarber, maybe it's not a one and done next year. Maybe there is some type of momentum that you can carry into October and potentially win a series or even go on a run if your team is hot at the right time. So Cincinnati coming out of the woodwork right now, looking like potential favorites to end up with Kyle Schwarber. But of course, they are not the only ones. I brought up Boston in the intro. Boston very much in the mix. And Boston's an interesting team because for a while now, they've been like what's that one saying? Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, right? It feels like that's what's going on right now with the Boston Red Sox, or it has anyways in the past couple of years. They've been in on a lot of conversations, but very rarely have they actually gotten the guy. I know that they got Alex Bregman last year, but he's gone now, right? How did that deal turn out? You lost Devers and Bregman is on free agency. Very rarely does it feel like, recently anyways, Boston has actually made it out with the big fish, but this would be a big fish, and they are currently targeting Pete Alonso and Kyle Schwarber as their primary targets. Alonso, for me, feels like he's going to go back to the New York Mets. I could certainly be wrong about that. Maybe Steve Cohen isn't valuing him like he should because they had that big debacle last year. I thought he should have got paid by the New York Mets big time then. inevitably it ended up being this kind of opting out player option thing, and here he is again on the free agency market. So maybe Uncle Steve isn't necessarily valuing Pete Alonso like he is. I think that he will end up going back to New York, though, which probably means that the Boston Red Sox are going to have to put all of their eggs into the Kyle Schwarber basket, which, again, if you are the Philadelphia Phillies listening to all of this, you got the hometown team of Cincinnati. Now you have the Boston Red Sox in on all this. I am not liking these reports, everybody. And on Boston, I mean, he would look real nice in that lineup. This is a young Boston lineup. This is a lineup that could certainly do damage in the next coming years. Obviously, the anchor right there is Roman Anthony. But still, let's not forget that Jarren Duran is a really good player. Let's not forget that they got Marcelo Meyer down there, 23 years old, or Cedin Rafaela. They got a lot of former top prospects in this lineup currently slotted in who could turn into really quality baseball players. You bring in somebody like a Kyle Schwarber, he can take over from that Alex Bregman veteran role, right? I mean, kind of, not the same player, but same in terms of their experiences. Gone to the deepest part of the playoffs, won a World Series before, at the top of their game, really, really quality baseball players that can lead by example, that can be the veteran presence on this team, can teach Roman Anthony some things, can teach some of those other guys. This move actually makes a ton of sense for me, for Boston. I totally understand why they are in the mix for this. And if they don't end up getting back Alex Bregman, which right now we actually haven't heard a whole lot about Alex Bregman. He's been pretty quiet. But if they don't end up getting him back, I mean, Kyle Schwarber, 56 bombs last year. I think that is a pretty good second place prize, if you even want to call it that, because Kyle Schwarber is just so damn good. But again, Boston, not the only team. Cincinnati, not the only team in on this thing. You also have those San Francisco Giants, pesky now, with Buster Posey leading the charge over there. They have been checking in on Kyle Schwarber, and wouldn't that make sense? Looking over at their lineup right here, I mean, they were a decent team last year. They were a decent team. Their relief pitching was awesome. Their hitting lineup was not as good as people thought it was going to be, myself included, right? I mean, when they brought in Willy Adames, and then they made the trade for Rafael Devers, I'm like, okay, now we are talking. This is going to be a force to be reckoned with. And it felt like they were just almost there. They were almost there. You bring in Kyle Schwarber, you get maybe a couple of those bounce back performances that you expected, right? Willy Adames is 740 OPS. I don't think that's good enough for his contract, right? I think he's a better baseball player than that, if I'm being honest. Matt Chapman, 770. I guess that's kind of where he is, but maybe you could get a bit more out of him. But either way, you slot in Kyle Schwarber at the top of this lineup, and now you are talking. This is now immediately a squad that I think would be capable of competing with the San Diego Padres for the second spot in that division. Obviously, LA is in a different tier, and they're going to run the show for forever, right? Until Shohei Ohtani is, out of baseball, they're going to run the show. But if you can play for that second place spot, if you can play for 90 wins, knock the Padres down a few pegs, their offseason could go a little wonky. They just lost Dylan Cease. They're going to be losing a couple other guys. Haven't heard a whole lot from them. Don't know if they're going to be big spenders. So they might be losing some pieces. This might be the opportunity for the San Francisco Giants to throw their hat into the mix, bring in somebody like a Kyle Schwarber, incredible baseball player, take this team to the next level. I'm serious. I don't think that I like the Giants fit as much as I like the Red Sox or honestly the Cincinnati Reds. But with Buster Posey at the helm, they've been proving that they go out and they get deals done. They don't sit around, they don't flirt, they flirt, I guess, but they actually get the job done. So I could see them going and making a play for Mr. Kyle Schwarber. And all of this we haven't even mentioned the biggest dog in all of this race being the Philadelphia Phillies, who are right now still considered to be the front runner, but they are up against a ton of competition, right? The expectation remains here that Schwarber will re-sign with Philadelphia, but the competition that is coming out, I would be kind of worried if I'm a Philadelphia Phillies fan right now. This article goes on to talk about all the competition. Obviously, we brought up the Cincinnati Reds. They are going to be major players in all of this, and maybe Schwarber's thinking that, hey, you know what? I want to retire with my hometown team I wanna feel that feeling. I wanna be kind of the hero of Cincinnati. Maybe he's thinking that. In fact, I almost guarantee that he is thinking that, right? And you gotta, if you're the Philadelphia Phillies, you gotta outweigh that with what it is that you're offering. But Reds are gonna be in the mix. I didn't even bring up the Cubs. I haven't even brought up the Cubs, but like, obviously, Schwarber been there, done that with them before. That was a good experience. I think that turned out pretty good. Could he go back over there? Sure. Red Sox definitely in the mix. Mets didn't even bring up them, but hey, if they lose out on Pete Alonso, who's a good, like, you want to talk about the same player type, Kyle Schwarber, Pete Alonso, effectively the same guy. Right? You get a low batting average, but an incredible slug, tons of home runs, tons of RBIs. Same guy right there. That could make a lot of sense. I don't think the Padres are going to be in on this thing, if I'm being completely honest. And they do obviously list the Giants. They list the Orioles as well. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Orioles are going to be fine. But point being, Philadelphia, they have their work cut out for them, man. And I think that they really do need them back. I've liked the Phillies for a long period of time. I'm a big Bryce Harper fan. Like, I love Bryce Harper. I think he's an awesome dude. I like the way that he plays the game of baseball. I think he's a class act, and I think that he's good for baseball. He really plays with his heart on his sleeve, but he's not getting any younger, man. And I want to see this Philadelphia Phillies team have an opportunity with him to go and win a ring. You lose Kyle Schwarber. He was your best player last year. That's not even debatable. He was MVP 2 in the National League. So he was your best player last year for the Philadelphia Phillies. Their lineup is still good. Their pitching staff is still good. They're still a very good baseball team. But that would be a unimaginable blow to that offense and just to that core and that camaraderie as a whole. It feels like if they're going to get something done, like if Bryce Harper is going to go on and win a ring, it feels like he's got to get that done with Kyle Schwarber. He's got to get that done with that big bat. This Phillies team with this core right now feels like they got to hold on to that guy. They're going to have their work cut out for them because now the Reds, the Giants, the Red Sox, the Cubs, they are all circling right now. And these sweepstakes, they're just going to continue to heat up. But folks, let me know what you think about all this in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.